Hi, I know this is a bit premature. This is a kind of end of year review, end of 2018 review. Look back at the sort of things I've done over the last 12 months. There's still a couple of weeks left, or 3 weeks, or whatever it is, left till the end of until the end of the month. But I was trying to figure out when I would get time to pop on here live and chat with you and do something like this. So I thought I would do it now. So I'm just going to talk. You can ask questions or whatever you want over at the side in the little text bit. It's over there somewhere to me. I don't know if that's the right direction for you. I'm just wondering whether it's reversed your side. So you can type any questions you want over there. But I will just talk a bit about the things I've got up to over the last 12 months, starting with my YouTube channel. So I started on YouTube in 2007, January 2007. So I've been on YouTube for 11 years, 12 years technically, January 2019. So I've been on YouTube for quite a while, doing all sorts of things from vlogging to making bedtime stories to all sorts of different things. And it took me about 11 years to reach 10,000 subscribers. So between 2017, I reached 10,000 subscribers in November, December-ish. I think it was December 2017. So it took a very long, or January 2018, it was sometime around then. So it took a very long time. Since then, this year, I've scribbled some notes down for me. I've had 16,000 new subscribers who still seem to be hanging around, which is good. So 16,000 new subscribers. So I've got about 26,000 subscribers now. So it took 10 or 11 years to reach 10,000, and then another year to get an additional 16,000. So it's a very quick growth there, which is great. And obviously I'm grateful for all those people who've subscribed. I have lost 2,200 subscribers this year, though. The time I saw the biggest loss of subscribers was back in the summer, in the run-up to my 40th birthday, when I did the bedtime story a day for 40 days. And I think that really wound people up, seeing a video from me for 40 days straight. So that lost me a lot of subscribers over that kind of month and a half. I have had 34 million minutes of my videos watched, which is a huge amount. To think that people have watched 34 million minutes of mainly bedtime stories. So you probably haven't watched, you probably listened and then fallen asleep, and maybe only listened to 10 minutes each or something, with 1.5 million views, which is a lot. And 28,000 likes I've had. So I've had 28,000 likes on my videos in the last year, 1,800 dislikes, which is fine. I'd rather have it that way round than 1,800 likes and 28,000 dislikes. 2,000 comments, and I try, as many of you who comment on my videos will know, I try to reply to all the comments if I can. So if there's something to reply to in the comment, then I reply. If it's a love this story or something like that, then I will give it a thumbs up, the person's comment a thumbs up, and if it's like a nice comment or something, then I'll use the little heart thing that I can do, whatever that is. So I try to reply to all those comments. There's a lot of comments to have to reply to. And I have posted about 125 videos here on this channel. Thank you. I've posted about 125 videos in the last year here on this channel. So I've posted a few on other channels. as well, and in other places, and on Facebook and things like that, but and Instagram and stuff. So, but specifically here on YouTube, 125 videos. So there's the 52 videos that go live, so one a week every Friday, and then I've obviously posted an additional bunch. This year I did post 40 through the summer, so that kind of skews it a bit, but it's still a lot of videos to have posted. So that's kind of what's gone on YouTube. And off YouTube, I've written 3 books this year, and I'm still trying to write more. Thank you. Glad that the bedtime stories are helpful. I use the bedtime stories myself as well at times. And one of my bedtime stories I use if I have the flu or something, which happens quite rarely. But with the flu, your body temperature raises. And when your body temperature is very high, it shuts down the part of your brain that makes you fall asleep. And you just physically can't fall asleep. It doesn't matter how much you try, as long as your body temperature is that high, the part of your brain that makes you sleep doesn't function. So I didn't realize that at first. And once I realized, I used to get into if I've had the flu, I'd get into a cold bath to cool myself down physically. So even though my body temperature is high because of having the flu, I would cool myself down by getting into a cold bath. And once I'm really, really cold and shivering, then I'd get out the bath and go to bed. And obviously, because you're ill and your body temperature is trying to be high, it rises back up again, but at least I'd get some sleep. But in the meantime, I would want to relax. So even if I'm not asleep, I would listen to my Prince Adventure story, the old version. I personally like my old version more than my new version, the sort of remake. And I've listened to it for probably about 12 or 15 years or something, however long I've had that one made. And I would find that I could listen to it on a loop. It's about an hour long. I'd listen to it on a loop and get 8 hours of relaxation. So I'm conscious the whole time. I'm not asleep. I don't fall asleep when I do this, but I'm physiologically totally relaxed and peaceful. So I then, outside of the hours I'm listening to it, feel calm, even though I've got the flu. I feel like I've got some rest. So I do that quite often. Quite often as in whenever I have the flu. So I've written 3 books in the last year. One of my most recent 2 are my Hypnotherapy Revealed books. I'm writing a series of 10 books about hypnotherapy. I've written the Introduction to Hypnotherapy and the Ericksonian Approach. And so they're book 1 and book 2. I'm in the middle of writing book 3, which is Hypnotherapy Transcripts. And so that will hopefully come out maybe March or something. And so, yes, that's 2 hypnotherapy books written. And I've written my Bedtime Stories for Grown-Ups book, which is 20 bedtime stories taken from my YouTube channel that I've transcribed, edited slightly to make them kind of flow as stories. And yes, a lot of other people jumped off my channel when I did the 40 bedtime stories back to back. But yeah, I'm glad some people seem to like it. So yeah, so I transcribed 20 of the bedtime stories and obviously wrote them down into my Bedtime Stories for Grown-Ups book, which I also obviously dedicated it to the people who've commented most at that point on my YouTube channel, people who'd commented most and interacted most on the channel. So I think about 100 or 120 of you, I wrote your names down in the acknowledgements of that book, because obviously the stories would be nothing without people actually listening to them and engaging with them, just like my YouTube channel. It would be nothing if people didn't engage on it and didn't kind of occasionally say, oh, by the way, I am sleeping sometimes now because of you, or something like that. So there are 3 new books I've written. I've also contributed to a few books. I don't think I've got any acknowledgement in any of the books as being a contributor. Most recently, I contributed to Dr. David Lewis's book, Triumph of the Will, which is a book about how Hitler was hypnotized when he was a lance corporal. He had hysterical blindness, and he believed that he was a strong character and that he shouldn't be able to be blind. It must be proper, blindness from being gassed. And yet the doctors knew he wasn't. It was hysterical blindness. It was psychological. And so a doctor treated him in hypnosis, but as part of that treatment, the doctor said that a doctor bought into his delusions, his sort of perception of the world, as a way of treating him, which is what therapists sometimes do. But that's a dangerous thing to do with a psychopath. And so this doctor said, okay, yes, your blindness is real, it is organic, it is caused by being gassed. And so the only way you can be treated, because it's real, is if a miracle occurs. And this, under hypnosis, this psychiatrist said to Hitler, and so miracles only occur a couple of times every few thousand years. Psychiatrist said a miracle occurred with Jesus, a miracle occurred with Muhammad. Are you in their league? The only way your blindness will go is if you are destined to be a leader like Jesus and Muhammad, and destined for great things, and destined to lead Germany into greatness, and stuff that you can kind of look back and see how this psychiatrist was going a bit wrong with his therapy. So the psychiatrist said all this and hypnotized Hitler, and then cleared his blindness. Hitler, he said, "Do you see the light?" And he held a torch up, a candle up, and Hitler saw the light. And unfortunately, Hitler interpreted the metaphor of seeing the light as being, "Do you see the light? Yes, I see my path now for the future. I'm destined to rule Germany out of the state we're in now and into greatness." And so between the First World War and the Second World War, obviously, he went from being someone who was seen as unable to lead as a lance corporal in the First World War. He was seen as pretty useless, that he wanted to be an artist and he failed as an artist. He wanted to do all these different things and he kept failing, and he was rubbish as a leader, and he was nervous talking to people and all these kind of things, and had pretty much written him off. That he had this huge ego, they said. And the psychiatrists, when they assessed him, said that they felt that he was probably psychopathic, but they didn't imagine he would achieve anything with his life because of how useless he was at communicating with people and stuff like that. And then later in Hitler's life, he was introduced to hypnosis. A stage hypnotist and person that deals with spiritualist stuff taught him how to use hypnosis to manipulate crowds and masses of people and things like that. So I'd been asked to contribute to a book that Dr. David Lewis wrote about all of this, where he gathered all the research from that psychiatrist's notes and stuff like that. The psychiatrist died mysteriously, as did everyone to do with this, by the time Hitler rose to power. So I've contributed to books like that, and I've written a few blog posts for Dr. David Lewis around that as well, around mind control and how hypnosis can accidentally lead to kind of negative outcomes, because as a hypnotist, you're not quite realizing necessarily what message you're really giving to someone. Obviously, most people aren't like Hitler. And so I contributed to that and to his blog. I've also written 41 blog posts over on my blog, danjoneshypnosis.com, mainly about autism, and I think some about hypnosis as well. So I will write more of them over the next year. As many of you probably have seen, I've created different sort of merchandise. I try not to. I get really irritated watching YouTubers' videos where they spend, say, 5 minutes of every video telling you how wonderful all their own products are and why you should buy all their products and trying to get you to buy everything of theirs. Obviously, they're successful when they do that. They make a lot more money than I do. The number of people that say to me they didn't even realize that I've written books and things, despite having written my 31st book this year. So I just don't like kind of trying to thrust promotion on people too much. I don't mind sort of saying, oh, I've just made a new course or something, but I don't like doing it like all the time in every video and making every video more about me and my products than about helping people or whatever it is that I'm actually trying to do in the video. So I've got things like t-shirts with HypnoPugs on them and t-shirts with cats asleep. You've probably seen it all. It's all on my YouTube channel and via my blog and what have you. My e-courses, I've created 3 new e-courses this year. An e-course on treating depression, so for therapists, how to treat depression, one on how to treat post-traumatic stress disorder and phobias and things like that, and one on how to learn hypnosis in an hour. So I've created those 3 new courses, and I've passed 30,000 students of my e-courses now. I passed that about a month ago, I think, from 157 countries. So that's kind of what I've been up to over the last year. Not a lot, really. It doesn't look like a lot when I look at it on paper. Yeah, I always seem to be busy, but writing books is very hard work, or I find it is. I wish that I could just somehow plug my brain into a laptop and then the laptop just prints on Word or something what's in my brain. That'd be so much easier than using my fingers to type for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours staring at a computer screen. So for the future, thinking about what I'm going to be doing in 2019, starting with YouTube, all of this year I've had 4 different types of videos every month. I've had an educational hypnosis video go live once a month. So on my videos go live every Friday. So an educational hypnosis video once a month, an educational autism video of some kind going live once a month, a guided meditation going live once a month, and a bedtime story going live once a month. So I've had those 4 every 4 weeks. So like the first Friday of the month, one thing will go live, and then the second Friday of the month, the next thing will go live, etc. So I've done that this year. But what I found is nowadays my hypnosis training videos and kind of educational videos don't get so many views. It used to be when I started in 2007, 2008, my hypnosis training videos were the most popular things. Thank you. They were my most popular things. They far outweighed the number of people who watched my videos of bedtime stories back then. I would get tens of thousands of views on my educational hypnosis videos, teaching how to do different inductions or teaching something about hypnosis. But when I left YouTube in 2011 or whatever it was, because of people just being horrible on YouTube and constantly having trolls on my channel, being abusive and stuff, and I just thought it's not worth it. And so I pulled down about 600 of my videos, as I've spoken about before. And I left YouTube for a little while, for a few years. And occasionally I'd post a video, but I pretty much didn't do anything with my channel for a while. But that meant that obviously people forgot about me in relation to my educational videos. And then when I started back up again, for some reason, it was this time round, so 2015 or whatever it was my bedtime stories that seemed to be popular. No idea why, because they were never particularly popular going back to 2007. I used to post, well, at my peak, I was posting every single day, a video every day in 2010, 2011, until I dropped off YouTube. And I was posting either a self-hypnosis or a self-hypnosis guided meditation type video, or a sleep story, or some kind of a video to send you to sleep, like a self-hypnosis sleep track or something. I was posting literally every single day, and no one was interested. So I deleted loads and loads of them because they were getting maybe 1 or 2 views a week. And yet, as I say, my educational videos were getting thousands of views a month. And so that's what I was doing back then. But as I say, this time round, I came back in 2015, and people have been watching my stories far more than my stories now get. Often, not all of them, but often they get thousands of views. I've got lots of stories that I think, oh, why do people not like that? Like stories with cats in and things. And I think, oh, I thought people liked cats, that have almost no views. And then I get other stories that have tens of thousands of views. So I don't really know what's behind what people like or dislike. I just make different stories and let them sit there, and people either like them or not. Yeah, having a relaxing voice is not always a good thing. You send people to sleep when you're trying to educate them. But I do find that, at least on live trainings, it helps to focus people. People are in a relaxed, receptive state, not an anxious kind of, oh, I don't know if I'm learning this right kind of state. And the less emotional you are, the clearer you can think about things. So to make something very memorable, use high level of emotion. But the trouble is, it also makes people thick. High level of emotion shuts down the higher cortex, and so people then aren't so good at processing information and facts and things. Yeah, glad someone likes the cat stories. I've made about 4 or 5 of them, I think, and some of them seem to have almost no views for some reason. So my plan all this year was to post these 4 different types of videos every month, because the thing I want to post about is autism, and I also want to demystify hypnosis. People have so many random, weird views of what they think hypnosis is. It's so clouded by things like stage hypnotists and people doing all sorts of different things to try and kind of make out like they're controlling people and stuff like that. That I like making videos about hypnosis to show, look, this is all it is. It's really simple. There's nothing magical or mystical about it. And just pretty much debunking any random weird myths that people might hold. So they're the things I like posting videos about. And so that was sort of 50% of every month I was posting those videos. And then the other 50% was posting guided meditation, self-hypnosis, and sleep story videos. But next year, the plan is, as some of you might have seen if any of you have clicked onto my profile, clicked on to look at my actual channel page rather than just on a video, I've been starting to update things to try and make it so that the channel focuses more just on sleep stories and hypnosis-y stuff, but mainly sleep stories, with the occasional kind of educational thing maybe thrown in there if I think, oh yeah, I just want to share this. So if, for example, I happen to have a demonstration or something that I think people might find interesting, then I'll share it. I won't delete all my videos that are currently on my channel. For a start, what happens in the old days, YouTube, if you deleted your videos, YouTube still kept your the number of video views, said how many video views you had based on the videos you've uploaded, not based on the videos that are just live, currently live videos. But YouTube changed it, so it made it so that the only the bit where it says how many views has this channel had is based on how many views the videos that are live and publicly viewable have had. So if you delete videos off of YouTube, or you make them private or anything like that, you lose loads of videos, loads of views. So when, for example, I deleted a whole load of videos that had between 100,000 and 500,000 views, things like my deep trance experience, well, that had 750,000 views. My deep trance experience sleep story had 750,000 views when it was on YouTube, and in 2011 that was one of the ones I deleted when I thought, no, right, I'm coming off of YouTube now. That was one of my 600. So the view, sort of how many views you've had, is based on just what's live, which is irritating. So I'm not going to delete my 600 or so videos I've currently got on my channel, because it would say that I have no views on my channel, which wouldn't do my rankings any good, and no one would see my sleep stories. But this channel, I will probably just largely focus on sleep stories, posting sleep stories. I don't know how often yet. It would be nice if I can get the motivation to post one a week, but that's very hard work. As any of you who've seen things like my other live videos or interacted with me will know, I really, really hate making the sleep stories. I really struggle with having to make them, and find it really, really stressful, especially once you're making lots of them. So if you're doing like a one-off sleep story, it's not a big issue, but when it's like, oh, I have to think of another one now and another one now, and obviously I inflicted 40 of them on myself back in the summer, it gets quite challenging, and I don't really like doing it. So I've got to decide how frequently to do it here on this channel, whether to do it like once a week or once a month or once a fortnight or whatever it'll be. I think there's about 115 sleep stories on my channel at the moment. And then I will have my Aspie Reacts channel, which will probably be the one I mainly use. And I can then just, on that one, post about autism and things related to autism and autism awareness. And the first thing I'll do as it approaches the new year is share my videos, or my autism videos that are on this channel. I will move copies of them over to the other channel so that people can then find all the autism videos in one location on one channel really easily. And then I will just carry on making autism videos over there, where I can talk about autism awareness, talk about tips for autistic people, to things like help them with communication skills, help them with different ideas that I've come up with over the years or used, and also help others. So like tips for friends, family, employers, teachers, work colleagues, all different things like that. So that's kind of my plan with my YouTube channel, is that this one would then focus just on the stories really, and occasional other hypnosis-y videos like demonstrations, or if I just feel the need to demystify something a bit or talk about something. So sometimes what happens is someone will comment on one of my videos asking something or saying something, and I'll reply to that comment. And when I reply to that comment, I have a tendency to want to make sure I reply as fully and helpfully as possible. But that means that my replies are often quite long. They're rarely just short, one sentence replies if you've asked an actual question, like for some advice or something, because that's not particularly helpful. So sometimes I think I've written so much, I could either turn this into a blog post, which I might then do, or I think I'm going to just make a YouTube video about this because other people might be interested in this as well. So sometimes people worry because I point out very overtly that my sleep stories are hypnotic, and they then worry, thinking, but I'm not allowed to do hypnosis. Hypnosis is bad and it's evil and all these sort of things. And so I then end up replying saying hypnosis isn't bad and evil. Hypnosis is just a natural everyday thing. And I end up explaining it to them and then thinking, oh, maybe I should make a video about this. And so things like that happen. And then I make videos. But raising autism awareness is obviously the thing I mainly want to focus on. And I've had people on my channel here frequently say, stop doing these autism videos, as well as getting abuse over here for being autistic as well, with people kind of commenting not particularly nice things. And so I just thought, well, if I put all the autism ones in one place, then I don't have to sort of upset all the people who just want to listen to bedtime stories. I don't want to subscribe to me and then click, when they see their home page or whatever on YouTube, and if they don't subscribe to many people, suddenly they see maybe an autism video and video from me of a guided meditation treating something like depression or something, and then one story or whatever, and they might think, oh, I don't want that, I just want the stories, I don't want to see all your other stuff show up in my newsfeed. So that's the idea, is to hopefully make it so that people who come here for the one thing that they want and they know about. And if you want autism, go to the autism one. Other future plans for 2019. Obviously, I'm always interested in what you guys have to say and your views, what you want me to do in relation to like explaining things, or like I've occasionally had people say, oh, can you explain how you make your stories or why they work and things. So I've already done a few videos obviously like that, but I do get questions like that I then think, oh, okay, I'll make some videos about that, and about different types of stories. So as I say, I've no idea why one story can go live and have 10,000 views in a day and then keep at a high level of views, and another story can go live and have 100 views and have no one watch it, and yet they can be virtually identical types of stories. So I've no idea really. So I always kind of look for feedback and think, oh, what other people are commenting? Are people saying they like something or dislike something? What is it they're saying they do like or don't like about the different stories? To try and learn and see, what are the types of stories people want. People might not want lots of stories where you're an animal, or they might not want lots of stories where animals are in them, or they might want lots of stories of lost adventures or something. So I'm planning to write at least 3 books over the next year. I've got to write a book with Dr. David Lewis, this sort of neuroscientist friend of mine, about the idea of there being no such thing as problems, only solutions. So my view as a therapist is people generally don't have problems. What you have is bad solutions. Yeah, everyone's fickle. I quite like a lot of Dr. House's views on things. Morning to you. It's sort of evening now here, nearly dinner time. Yeah, I like Dr. House's kind of attitude that everyone lies, everyone is quite kind of random, and not random in their behavior. People are very predictable in their behaviors, but they don't think logically. That's probably more to the point. There's not necessarily, you're always trying to look for that pattern, that kind of what is the bit that's connecting all of these. Yeah, so my view as a therapist is very much that people don't really have problems. What they have is faulty solutions. So a smoker might smoke to relax, and yet cigarettes are actually, nicotine is a stimulant, not a relaxant. So when a smoker smokes, what they do is they stimulate themselves, making it so that they're more anxious. But a smoker will tell you that, or a smoker that smokes to relax will tell you that the smoking relaxes them. What they don't realize is that what relaxes them is the deep breathing they do when they smoke. So, and then the deep breathing wears off after perhaps 20 minutes, half an hour, and then the stimulant kicks in, which I quite like Temple Grandin's stuff. I think she's great at presenting and talking about autism. So with, say, a smoker, the nicotine then kicks in. So you have the person's getting stressed. They go out to have a cigarette. They smoke. They do deep breathing, because when a smoker smokes, they go, so they do deep breathing without realizing they do deep breathing, which is obviously a relaxing thing. It triggers a relaxation response. So then their stress levels go down, but at the same time, they've ingested a stimulant. So as their stress levels are going down, the stimulant is going up, and the stimulant eventually passes the point of the relaxation they gave themselves from the deep breathing. So all it is the smoking isn't a problem. The smoking is that individual's solution to stress. Is, I get stressed, I need a cigarette to relax. But it's a faulty solution. They think it's a good solution, even if they know it's unhealthy. Fundamentally, they think it's a good solution because it's a solution that does a job, but it's not necessarily the cigarette that does that job. Likewise, anxiety is a good thing. You don't do anything unless you get anxious. You don't get up and go to the toilet unless you feel uncomfortable and you start getting anxious and think, I've got to take action. Anxiety makes you take action. So anxiety is a good thing, and it's a solution thing. Here is a solution. It's telling you to take action. But anxiety in the wrong place is a problem. So because it's a problem in the wrong place, it's not really a problem. It's just the wrong solution for that situation. So getting anxious when you see a snake that is harmless isn't a helpful solution. But what the anxiety is saying is, I think that snake could be a threat, so I want to run away from it. And to motivate you to run away, it causes you the anxiety. So it's created a solution. It is a solution. It's not a problem. The anxiety is, I look at things as, when someone says to me that they have anxiety, I think, what is that the solution for? What is it trying to save you from? What is it that's going on? So it's not about some kind of deep-rooted, you were abused when you were 3 years old and stuff like that. It could be something like that, but it's not saying that's where you go with everything. But it's, the idea is that what's behind it? What is the anxiety is trying to help you to achieve something? What is it trying to help you to achieve? Or the smoking is trying to help you to achieve something. What is it trying to help you to achieve? Or depression. Depression, if you get depressed, it's trying to help you achieve something. Depression isn't a problem. Depression is like your brain slapping you in the face and saying, I'm going to drain all energy out of you and make it so you sit there and address the problems that are going on in your life. The trouble is, if you then don't address the problems going on in your life, you get stuck in the depression. And so the depression is an attempted solution from your own brain that is trying to solve a problem. It just may not be the most effective solution. And obviously, from an evolutionary point of view, you never needed to have the most effective solution. You just needed to have a solution. So if it did its job, it didn't matter if it killed you in the future. So it doesn't matter if anxiety in men hardens your arteries and can lead to heart attacks and things, as long as you don't get eaten by a lion today so that you can procreate tomorrow. So, the anxiety is a solution that's supposed to be a short-term solution. It's supposed to save you here and now so that you live for another day, so you can do the things you have to do to make sure that your species continues on. So that book is, I don't know what the title will be yet, but that book is going to be about this idea that problems aren't necessarily a bad thing. It's just the location. It's just the fact they're happening in the wrong place, really. And it's about looking at problems from a different angle and seeing, actually, I'm not messed up. My brain or my mind or whatever isn't messed up. It is perfectly acceptable for me to respond this way. It's just that I have found a solution that isn't helping me to function well in the world. And so I need to find a different solution and help my brain to know how to do that. It depends what you. So the question about chakra healing meditation and the chakra alignment meditations depends what you mean by really work. They work in terms of helping people to feel aligned and feel kind of centered and balanced and more kind of in tune with themselves or with the world around them. So that's how I would look at it. Obviously, all of this is down to whether things are a metaphor, whether it's reality. That will depend on people's beliefs of what they think it is. But what is real is that, because I do a lot of obviously metaphorical healing-y stuff, most of my therapy is either non-verbal, so I just use hand movements and things, or and some people might interpret it as energy type therapy, but that's again down to how someone interprets it. Or it's things like using storytelling, where you're trying to use something that draws attention in to that story or into that idea. So, for example, if you didn't believe, say, in chakras, that's perfectly fine. Just like if you don't believe in past lives, that's perfectly fine. The idea is that that doesn't matter really from a healing perspective, because your brain works in a metaphorical way. So it takes the ideas and thinks, what is the idea behind this? Like if you tell the story of the ugly duckling to someone who's got an identity problem and they're in therapy for the identity problem, because they're in therapy for the identity problem, they know they're there to get treated for the identity problem. You know they're there to get treated but for the identity problem. So anything that takes place in the context of therapy, their brain interprets as it must be to do with the identity problem and treating that, because that's the whole point of them being there. So you then tell the story of the ugly duckling, and they suddenly take the pattern of the story and they understand the pattern of the story on a non-conscious kind of level and turn it into their own inner therapy. So it's a way of facilitating someone's own self-healing without dictating to someone how they have to do the healing. And so that's kind of how I look at those sort of things, that my role isn't to dictate therapy to people or anything like that. My role is to facilitate people doing their own self-healing and doing that self-expression. So doing it through their own self-expression in their own way, and not saying, no, you're doing it wrong. This is how you must do it, or this is how you must think about it. So, for example, if it was past lives, then one person might think, I 100% believe in past lives. And then you do, you sort of hypnotize them or relax them, whatever term you want to use. You get them to close their eyes and just go into their mind and say, settle on something from prior to your birth. I'd normally say a bit more than that, but you give that kind of idea and they then settle on something and say, I don't know, I had a friend who said, I'm lying face down on a cobbled street, drunk outside a pub. And that's where he appeared in his mind and in his kind of past life, as it were. And so if you believed it was a past life, he would then see it as, if this is a past life, then this is a past life. That's fine. If you don't believe it's a past life, that's also fine. It's a metaphor for the healing. It's where his mind decided to take him. It's where his mind decided to go with this and decided what messages or what learning he needed to have. He doesn't even have to understand it consciously. So you don't have to understand these things consciously. Like a lot of my stories, if you sit down, so if you've bought my bedtime stories book, where you can actually read it and analyze the story and think, what's Dan doing here? You can read it and analyze it and notice patterns in it and think, oh, so he's using that pattern there and this pattern here. And there'll be patterns laid down for healing and well-being and reducing anxiety and not attaching to things too much. there's patterns for those kind of things. And if the pattern resonates with something that the individual listening to it needs, they take it on board. If they don't need it, because it doesn't actually resonate with them and their issues or what's keeping them awake at night or whatever it happens to be, it's fine. It's just a nice story, hopefully. So that's the same with all these things, that if someone, for example, there was a TV series on ITV, one of the TV channels here in the UK, probably a decade ago, or maybe even more than that was about past life regression. So every episode started with a semi-celebrity, someone who perhaps used to be a celebrity and isn't now, or was a reality TV star or something, saying, I'm going to give this past life thing a go, and I don't know what to expect. And they would talk a bit about, and I wonder what it's going to be like. I hope it's something like this, or I've got these issues, and it'd be really great to know if it's to do with those. And before they were hypnotized and did the past life regression part of the show, I was able to write down roughly what I felt their past life would be. Not necessarily like it will be this individual, but I was able to write down, these are the patterns they've spoken about. These are the issues they've spoken about wanting to address. So I would imagine that their past life that they're going to come up with will include these different patterns and these different ideas. And then I'd watch the rest of the show and it'd be correct, that they would then have the past life experience that I had written down that I thought they'd probably have, based on the idea that they're not really going to have a real past life experience. They're going to have this kind of metaphor for the problem that they've spoken about that they want to think might be linked to a past life. So it's not saying, again, past lives are real or not real. It's just saying that that works in that way, and that to me it's not important. I'd love past lives to be real. That'd be brilliant. But to me, it's not important whether they're real or not. What's important is if a client feels that it's going to be helpful for them, and I'm happy to go with it and not make a judgment on whether it's real or not real. That's not the important thing. The important thing is it the thing that's therapeutic for the individual? So that's kind of a very long, convoluted answer to a question about chakra meditations. But so, as I say, I've got 3 books. I want to write at least my next Hypnotherapy Revealed book, which is hypnotherapy transcripts. Ideally, it'd be nice to write a 4th and 5th one, because then I'll feel like I've made progress. I'll be halfway through the 10 that I'm trying to write. And I've just started writing a Wellbeing for YouTubers and Digital Entrepreneurs book as well, because obviously when I mainly make money online from e-courses, writing books and e-books, and doing YouTube and all these kind of things. So on a daily basis, I see 0 people. I see my wife at the end of the day, and I see my wife on her days off. Other than that, I will largely sit on my own all day, every day, or stand in front of a camera on my own all day, every day. So I'm happy to do that. But if you're the average normal person, you want some socializing and stuff. And so it can be a lonely kind of thing, and you can be stuck with your own thoughts. And some people struggle with being with their own thoughts. You can get people trolling you and going through your social media, saying nasty things about you. And as Stephen Fry recently said, so Stephen Fry, I joined Twitter, I think 2009 or something, and I followed Stephen Fry, and Stephen Fry followed me back. And when he used to post stuff and you comment on his posts, he would then reply to your comments, and he was very interactive. And then more people followed him, and more negativity increased, and he ended up having moments where he'd become really depressed by it and really upset by it. And he'd then leave Twitter, and then he'd come back to Twitter, and then he'd leave Twitter, and then he'd come back to Twitter. And he said recently on the Graham Norton show that now he posts something and then runs away. He doesn't look at any of the replies. He doesn't want to see the replies, largely, because although 99.99 whatever percent of them will be really nice, friendly comments, there'll be some really horrible ones. And someone else on the show said, yeah, but you can just kind of focus on, I can't remember how they worded it, but you can just focus on the positive ones. The negative ones are so minimal. And he said, yeah, but that's like, 99.9% of a swimming pool could be perfectly fine. But if you know there's a turd sitting in the corner, you don't want to get in the pool. And so you kind of made that comparison, that the one negative can ruin your day so badly that you just would rather not be there, rather not even see all the positive ones. And I get that with like book reviews and all these things, that nowadays I don't look at any of these things. I used to think, oh, I love that book review is really nice. YouTube is the only place where I look at the comments regularly, and my blog, if anyone comments on my blog. And I just think any negative comments, I ignore it. I just sort of think it says more about the person who posted it than about me. And if it's constructive, then that's fine. I'm happy to have a constructive comment, or a comment that I think, yeah, I can see your point entirely. So one thing that kind of annoys me is it doesn't matter what I do with microphones. I've had microphones well away from me. Obviously at the moment I'm on a laptop, just using the camera on the laptop. If I make a YouTube video, I don't do that. But I try and keep microphones away from me. I've had lapel mics, I've had all sorts of things. And what I end up finding is that probably 50% of the time, it doesn't matter whether I'm hydrated or dehydrated or what I am, I end up with really annoying, probably because I do things in a single take, and that means I'm going to be talking for like half an hour straight or an hour straight when I'm doing things. But I'll have a lot of mouth noise and stuff. So when people comment and say, I couldn't cope with your stories because of the sound of your mouth, I think, well, that's a perfectly acceptable reason. That's fine. So I don't mind someone saying they're annoyed at things like that or whatever. It's something that's a perfectly normal, they're entitled to their opinion, and that's fine. I know other videos where for some reason it must have just been a good day. I do all the recommended things, the making sure you're drinking plenty of water to be hydrated, but in the last hour beforehand, not gulping back water, but just sipping water and all those kind of things. I do all that, and I make sure that I've eaten like an hour before doing any videoing, to try and make sure that my belly doesn't rumble and all these kind of things. And yet there'll be just days where I'm making a story and I can't get rid of the sound of my mouth, and I can't, if I was shouting or talking very loud, you wouldn't notice, but because I'm trying to talk in a relaxed way, you notice the quieter sounds because I'm being quieter. So when it's people giving negative comments like that, I don't mind. It's the negative comments, where someone will just randomly say, you autistics, see you next Tuesday kind of thing. And you think, well, what is the point in that comment? It serves no point at all. So nowadays I just see that as, that says more about that individual than about me. If it's constructive, as I say, I don't mind if it's negative, because it's not meant as an attack. It's meant as a kind of, in fact, it annoys me how much people apologize. People say, sorry, I couldn't watch that because of this. I think we don't have to say sorry, just say you couldn't watch it because of that, and you're letting me know. You don't have to apologize for having an opinion. But people do that, and definitely us Brits, we're very good at starting every sentence with an apology for some reason. So comments like that I don't mind, but it's those troll ones, the ones where, some of you might have seen my reply to some occasionally. Normally, if it's abusing a subscriber or someone else who's commented, then if it's something that I think it's harmless enough, they'll handle it, and if it gets out of hand, then I will just delete it. But if it's something I think, no, actually, you've just been nasty for the sake of being nasty, then I delete it straight away, and as soon as I see it. So obviously, if it comes in overnight when I'm in bed asleep, I can't delete it for maybe 8 hours or something. But I try to delete things as soon as I see them. If it's towards someone else, if it's towards me, I leave it. If it's not, if it's not full of swear words and things, if it's not like really abusive, I leave it there, because I don't want to kind of, have my channel made to look all positive. Not like positive in a, don't know how to describe it. I don't want it to look like I edit my channel so that any nice comments are only nice comments because I've edited my channel, if that makes sense. I don't want people to think, oh, he obviously only lets those who say, oh, wow, your stories are wonderful, comment on his videos, and everyone else he deletes. I want people to know that I don't care whether someone likes or dislikes my stories, because that's their right, or any of my other videos. I just don't want things to be abusive towards people. But I don't take any of that personally now on my YouTube channel. I just think, no, keep in mind, it's about that person. It's not about me. They're sharing, that sort of, they're revealing something of themselves by choosing to attack someone for no real reason, just because they can perhaps have anonymity. But likewise, I know some people who are online, friends who are online, who any negative comment they see as it must be a troll, as if somehow just having a negative opinion about something means you're a troll, rather than accepting that it could just be a difference of opinion. So it's important for me that people do share their negative opinions if they've got one. It's kind of irritating when people give a thumbs down and no comment. I think that annoys me more, especially if it's on something like I made a video about workplace discrimination and how I became depressed and suicidal, and how I'd put a date to kill myself in my mobile phone, that if I hadn't figured out how to escape my job by that date, then the logical answer is to kill myself. And so I made a video about this to try and raise awareness of it, and it got people giving thumbs down to it. And I thought, what? And not leaving comments. There was no negative comments. Just it seemed to have a rush fairly quickly after it went live of people giving these negative thumbs down, and that kind of irritated me and got to me, because I thought, what is it about someone saying that they were depressed and saying that they were suicidal that means that you have to give them a thumbs down for sharing that information when they're trying to help? And so sometimes if those thumbs down go on a video before the thumbs up go on the video, if that makes sense, if a video goes live and it just happens by chance that the first 3 or 4 people to see it give it a thumbs down, then it's like, oh, is it really that bad? Why don't people like it? Why have I said something that's out of order to share or something? And so, but then you see thumbs up appear and you think, oh, actually it's okay. But if they'd left a comment, you would know what it was that they were giving it a thumbs down for. A bit like on my last live video, it had fairly quickly, it had a couple of thumbs down. And yet my last live video, anyone that tuned into that, was thank you for helping me past 25,000 subscribers, or whatever it was. It was kind of a positive, I'm really grateful to you guys for subscribing kind of video. It wasn't a negative. There was nothing, I couldn't understand why someone would see a thank you for subscribing as the title of the video. Thank you for, this kind of, I'm grateful to you all. And it gets thumbs down. So that confused me. But yeah, that's just one of those things that you kind of have to put up with. So I want to write a book that helps people who don't engage with others much, like, if you work for a company. So I've been a therapist for probably 15 years or something, And if you work for a company doing things like that, you have clinical supervision, you have a manager who you can talk to, and you sort of say, oh, I've been getting a hard time from this person or that or whatever. When you literally stare at four walls and a computer all day, you don't have any of that support around you. And if you're not hugely sociable in your everyday life, so you don't have maybe a big circle of friends, or you don't feel that capable of telling your friends about your worries or things that are upsetting you, you just think, oh no, I'll just have to keep it to myself. It can be very difficult to cope with, and lots of YouTubers and people that do digital type of stuff struggle with mental health problems because of that issue. And so I want to write a book to help those people, to help them to know what they can do and how they can help themselves. And you also have this thing of, there's this thing against YouTubers, for example. It seems to be YouTubers mainly, that it's like, oh, because you're a YouTuber, you just want to be famous and you want to be in the limelight and you shouldn't complain about it. And so because you get this message from people of, well, you shouldn't complain, you've got what you want, you're in the limelight, people are following your channel and people are doing this and that, you then feel guilty about the idea of having a problem. And I have a really, really weird taste in music. One of my favorite singers, Katie Melua, she had depression a few years back and ended up having to check into a sort of inpatient's depression thing. What made it worse was that she is famous and she's a millionaire because of her music. And she said that she just couldn't cope because she felt guilty about being depressed. She felt like, what have I got to be depressed about? She said, I have millions of pounds in the bank. I have a really successful music career, and yet I'm depressed. And she felt like, how can you come out and say you're depressed when everyone is going to say, well, it's all right for you with your millions and your nice house and and people will come out and say those kind of things. And so she kind of felt that made her more depressed, because she couldn't just be open and say, look, actually, I'm struggling. I'm having problems here. So again, that's why I've always tried to be open, like on my YouTube channel, try to just be open and say, look, I've had problems before, I've got depressed before, I've been suicidal before. So it's one of those things that is trying to, share that kind of knowledge and share tips as well. Yeah, eye contact is an interesting one, I think. Yeah, a lot of YouTubers do try and make people happy in one way or another. So there are people that try and make people happy through doing entertainment, people that try and do it through music. They want to make people smile and happy. Comedians, some of them will say, like Ken Dodd used to say that his thing was to try and make people laugh. You just want to make people laugh and spread joy and happiness. And you give someone a time where they're not in the rest of the world, where they're not in their everyday life, where they're perhaps struggling and focusing on the struggling with bills and focusing on struggling with their work maybe, and maybe relationship problems, whatever else is going on in their life. For that period of time, they're in a room, not thinking about anything outside of that room, and they're just laughing and having fun and enjoying themselves. And you get YouTubers that obviously try and do this. You get some in any industry, you get people who are very arrogant and very kind of, the more popular they become, the more they buy into their own arrogance, and they kind of, I think that ruins them eventually. Those people, normally the public end up seeing through them and seeing that they've now just bought into wanting to be famous for the sake of being famous or something. But most people aren't that kind of person. It's a bit like the the whole thing with, I know in lots of countries around the world, there's issues around people having a fear of immigrants. And yet many people from many countries are immigrants to other countries. So they have a fear of people coming to your country, but then they'll go to other countries and be the immigrant to the other country. But this fear of immigrants. And Penn Jillette, the magician from Penn and Teller, he did an interview where he pointed out that almost 100% of people on Earth are decent human beings that want to do the best for other human beings. And so this whole sort of, oh, they may be a terrorist, or they may be this, or they may be that. Statistically, obviously, inevitably, there are some who are wherever you go. But statistically, the chances of meeting someone who, as an individual, is fundamentally horrible, that is very unlikely. And so it's kind of, what is your mindset? Because the trouble with the news is that, and with social media where you see the news and see things scrolling on there, is that what sells is bad news. So people get this perception of the world as being all bad and all horrible, and that everything is dangerous everywhere, that if you do this, it's going to be dangerous. If you do that, it's going to be dangerous. Those people are dangerous. These people are dangerous. And it creates division, and it makes everything divided, and people against each other rather than uniting and collaborating and seeing how can we work together to achieve more. And so, so you've got that kind of, the world around us, or the media around us, and then everything that gets shared by all our friends ends up being, have you said this story? Have you seen that story? And yet the reality is almost every single human being you meet on Earth wants the best for other human beings and wants to help and wants to be helpful. And some might be scared of you for the same reasons you might be scared of other people or whatever. But fundamentally at heart, people are nice people. They're not horrible. And so it's, how do you want to view the world and the people in it? Do you want to view it through this perspective of people are dangerous, or do you want to, view it through the perspective of nearly everyone I ever meet is going to be good and kind? And you often get the kind of people. It's like I know someone who says, "Oh, I went to this town the other day and someone started on me and got violent." And I'll be thinking, I've been to that town and that's never, ever happened to me. And I'm 40. And in 40 years, I've never, ever had someone start on me in a town. And they'll say, oh, and then I went to this town 2 days ago and someone started on me there. And I went to that one then and people started on me there. And I was in this pub and someone started on me there. And they encounter violent people everywhere they go. But they believe the world is a dangerous, violent place. So if I break it down and say, so what happened? Oh, well, this person looked at me funny. So I went, oh, what are you looking at? What do you, well, you've become aggressive towards them in your fear that they're aggressive towards you by the way they looked at you. So, you kind of create the reality around you to a large extent that you sort of expect to see. Now, thank you for reading the autobiography. Writing the autobiography was, so I've got an autobiography, Look Into My Eyes, was a challenge to write. It wasn't a challenge to be blunt and honest and just be open about me. What was a challenge was things like, how do I write it? Do I write it chronologically? Because I was aware there was going to be repetition, like just taking socializing. I would talk about socializing as a small child, and then I would talk about socializing in school, and then I'd talk about socializing in secondary school, and I'd talk about socializing in relationships and socializing in work. And so I was aware there was going to be this repetition by doing it that way. But the alternative way was to break it down into categories and say, okay, socializing, and then just write how it affected me. And then the next chapter maybe on communication skills and write all that. And I just felt that the way to make it flow most and helpful to people, because that was a large part of the idea of writing it, was that I wanted to do it chronologically as an autobiography. And then if a parent, for example, picked it up thinking, I think my toddler might be autistic, the parent can read it. And at the beginning of the book, obviously, is me as a child, a young child. So they'd read it and think, oh, I resonate with that. I resonate with that. I resonate with that. And they can then see, these things are things that my child has. And so I thought that way it would be helpful to them. Likewise, if they thought my teenager might be autistic, then they could read it. And when they get to the teenage years, they would see that and think, they will have read, oh, my child was like this when they were younger. And then when they get to the teenage years, they think, oh, my child is like this now. But also they can read beyond that and see what kind of a future might my child have, what challenges might they encounter, what strengths might they be able to utilize because of being autistic. And then obviously my wife wrote the last chapter in the book because people kept saying, what's it like being, for someone married to someone who's autistic? And I felt I can't talk on for someone else. People can only talk for themselves. And so she was kind enough to write that down and write her perspective. So anything else I need to say? Yes, the only other things I plan on doing next year is creating some e-courses about working with autistic people and things like that. So around autism in some way, to try and have some helpful e-courses out there to do with autism, and possibly some live versions. But I'm not very good at setting up live courses. I'm useless trying to make telephone calls and use the phone, and useless at interacting with people in reality. So I'm not very good at setting things up. I prefer it if someone else can set things up for me and I just do the teaching. So if I can find a way around it, then I'll probably teach some live courses. I also, for about November-ish, want to set up something that I'm just calling Chai Book Fest, so Chichester Book Festival, to raise money for the National Autistic Society. I'd quite like in November-ish to set up a book festival. I obviously like books. I'm not sat in front of books right now. I'm sat next to all my DVDs. So I like books and I write books. And so I want to, thank you. So I want to have a book festival on, say, the Friday night, having just a launch party or something, and then Saturday, Sunday, having, say, 5 talks or workshops or something a day, to raise money for National Autistic Society. I don't know yet whether I'll be able to pull that off, whether I'll be able to get other authors interested in coming along, given that it's for charities, so I can't afford to pay them. Probably cover travel, but I can't afford anything else. And given that I would probably have to do a lot of organising, and I'm not very good at organising things that involve communicating with everyone. I'm good at organising things where it's just me and I have to write a list of what I'm going to do and then I go and do it. Or I write a list of what I'm going to write in a book and then I go and write the book. Or a list of videos I'm going to make and then I make those videos. I can do that. I'm just not very good at having to organise venues and organise catering and organise speakers and all these other things. But the plan is I'd quite like to do that. Every year I keep saying I want to do something to give back to the local community. Every year I fail because I can't seem to get any interest or traction from anyone in the local community because I struggle to communicate with the local community. So I just end up not doing anything. So this year I offered I put a shout out, I think, on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, saying I want to do a free talk once a month about autism, and had no interest. So I went to the end of the year and haven't done any free talks about autism this year because no one was interested in me giving a talk to any of their organizations or to schools or to workplaces or anything. But every year I try. I start the year with high hopes that I'll get something like that. And so this year I want to do a book festival, because I think that'd be a fun thing to do. Bringing people together around books and around reading, obviously all things that kids and a lot of autistic people as well perhaps like reading but struggle to get into it. And it's not so common nowadays, unfortunately, for parents to read to kids. Parents just turn on an iPad or something and leave their kids to it. And obviously most of my working career has been working with children and families. So it's a shame to see it go that way. But yeah, the person on the front cover of my autobiography is obviously a slightly younger version of myself. Thank you. I feel I fail, but then I know we all do. We all feel that we fail at things, even though others may not see it. It's more a case of not succeeding at doing the bits I want to do. For some reason, I've never, ever been able to get charities interested in me doing things for them for free. Years ago, myself and 2 other hypnotists tried to do free. We wanted to offer 1 day each a week for free to charities for us to do hypnosis or therapy with those charities. And we approached dozens of charities in the area I live in. We approached dozens of charities offering to do things like hypnotherapy for pain management with arthritis charities, pain management and cancer and sickness and things for cancer charities. We offered things like anxiety management, and no idea what's going to be for dinner. Anxiety management, all sorts of things. And every charity didn't want to know, even though we said we want to do this once a week for free, 8 hours once a week for free for your charity, to help people who use your charities. Not a single charity wanted to know. So the other 2 hypnotherapists gave up on it completely, and I still try every single year to engage charities and see if charities want me to help them for free. And so far, every year since I've been an adult, charities haven't wanted to know, unfortunately. So I tried, and regularly, that's the one thing I regularly feel I fail at, that it's probably my communication skills and struggles with communication that makes me fail, because I can't believe that people who attend arthritis charities don't want help with pain, and yet the charity wouldn't allow us to offer it for free. And so, yeah, so to me, that feels like a failure, that I can't seem to interest charities in what I have to offer. I offered the UK Armed Forces my services for free to help with post-traumatic stress disorder, and got a Ministry of Defence letter back saying, we don't want someone like you helping our armed forces. And I was offering to help people for free with post-traumatic stress disorder across all the armed forces, because I thought it was a good thing, a kind thing to do, because I've worked with a lot of, where I live, there's a lot of armed forces people in the nearby town, and over in Portsmouth. And I'd been working with lots of people for post-traumatic stress disorder in my area. And a lot of these I use the rewind technique, which means that the person who's traumatized doesn't have to reveal any information about what they're traumatized about. They don't have to say, I saw someone's legs blown off and I can't get the image out of my mind, or whatever it happens to be. They don't have to say any of that. You can treat them without knowing the details of the problem. And so I would do that with people, treat them in about half an hour. I'd get rid of their post-traumatic stress disorder. It doesn't mean they don't need further therapy for other things that have occurred, perhaps because of the post-traumatic stress disorder, like maybe they're now homeless or other things that need additional support around. But the actual post-traumatic stress bit, frequently I can help in a session to a few sessions. And so a lot of armed forces people who are in my area were saying, "Oh, you really should contact the Ministry of Defence, the person at the top who's in charge of all the armed services, and see if they'll have you do this for free, even if it's in our area to start with our local armed forces, and then maybe spreading if it's working, teaching other people to do what you do, and then spreading it around." And I thought, yeah, I'm happy to do all that for free. And I treated a number of people locally for free. And yet I was told by the UK government, essentially, the UK Armed Forces, no, it's not going to happen. You're not going to help. And yet I regularly see documentaries and news stories and research come out saying this many armed forces, armed service men and women suffer with PTSD and can't find treatment and end up homeless and end up on drugs and alcohol and all these other things, and depressed and suffering with anger, and then doing domestic violence and all these kind of things. And so to me, it's like, well, I've offered the help, but the service, yeah. So I've offered the help, and the services don't want to know. The people in charge don't want to know about the help, which confuses me. But yeah, so I agree that it is a shame for the patients or the clients that I've tried to go into the local hospital to offer support for free. I've tried to go all over the place to offer support for free to people, especially now that I make most of my living online, doing stuff online, stuff that means that it does free up. If I want, I can choose any day at all and say that day I'm going to go and do something else. I'm not tied to, I have to work 9 to 5 or something. I can do a day where I make videos for like 15 hours in a day, and then have a few days where I don't have to make videos. I can go and do something for free if I want, without, it's the videos I've just made that will make me the money, meaning that I've got the free time to do therapy and things for free for people. But yeah, so anyway, if there's nothing anyone wants to ask or say, then I will probably go. It's been an hour and 22 minutes of me sat yakking to a camera. Luckily there's some people watching, so I can read what people are saying. Yeah, PTSD is a huge problem. Worldwide, it's a huge problem. For the troops and for the poor civilians who end up caught in the middle of everything. They obviously suffer a lot and need help as well. And where there are charities that do spring up in relation to helping service personnel, there aren't necessarily so many charities that spring up to help civilians with PTSD who are perhaps trying to escape from war zones. Yes, my view is also that the charities are largely failing those who are in their care, because those that are in their care, I don't get to speak directly to, and yet the people who are the sort of intermediate people, the people who do the charities, are the ones who say, don't, we're not going to offer your help to them. Good night, Donald. Yeah, Rose, I was on MySpace, this going back a long time. I was on MySpace, I think, when the shooting happened, and a number of people, I had a lot of followers on MySpace. MySpace is largely a music kind of platform, and so I had lots and lots and lots, dozens and dozens of my bedtime stories and self-hypnosis tracks and all sorts of things on MySpace. And so lots of people were using them. And when the shooting happened, someone who was actually from the school said, oh, can you make me a personalized track to help me? I've been traumatized by this. And so I made them a personalized track. They got helped by that track. And they then said, oh, it'd be great if this track was available to others, not just those who were directly involved, but lots of people were traumatized who had heard about the shooting and who were family members, friends, even more distant people, people who were traumatized because of the thought that it could happen to them or their children or whatever. And so I then made the track available for free and got attacked by hypnotherapy. I didn't have my name. I let this person share it. And so I didn't have my name attached to it at all. I didn't say, hi, I'm Dan Jones. I didn't say anything. There was just me doing the track. So if you recognized my voice, you would know it was me. But if you didn't recognize my voice, it would just be any old person doing it. And eventually that person had ended up saying, oh, it was Dan Jones who did this. And once it came out that it was me on MySpace, a lot of people started attacking me. A lot of my colleagues, so to speak, other hypnotherapists, started attacking me about how bad it is that I'd made this track to help people and was giving it away for free. And it must just be a marketing thing. It must be because I want to capitalize off of a horrible event. And yet it was 100% just, I made it because someone asked me, because my view is that if you can help people, you've got a duty of care to attempt to help people as best you can. And money shouldn't come into it. It should all be about the fact that you've got skills to help. So if someone was depressed and I knew they were depressed, I've got a duty to say, look, if you'd like some help, I'm happy to help. If they say no, that's fine. That's then their decision. I'm not going to force my help on people. But my view is that as an ethical type of person, as a human being, if you've got skills that could relieve the suffering of someone and you just sit by and watch them suffer and don't offer your skills to them, it doesn't mean you can guarantee you can help them in any way. But if you don't even try, you're being negligent. You're not being a particularly good human being. And so to me, all it was a case of was, I've got some skills and it's my duty to see if I can help people who need the help. And that was a large part of why I joined YouTube. My view when teaching therapy and things is that I struggle with paid therapy, because my view is if someone's hanging off a cliff by one hand and you say to them, let go of the cliff and I'll see if I can catch you, but give me money first, it just doesn't sit comfortably with me. So I know people have to make a living and stuff. So you have to charge for therapy if therapy is your way of making a living. But even doing that, a part of me just thinks it would be nice to live in a world where it's not about the money, where if you've got certain skills, you just help. And so with that shooting, I had just tried to help, but obviously lots of other people didn't try and help, and they got very angry with me for the fact that I was the one who was trying to help. So my interpretation of it was they're angry with me because they didn't try and help, and they saw my track suddenly going all over MySpace and being shared everywhere because it was attempting to help people, and yet they weren't doing anything. But my name, like a lot of stuff I do, I try to play myself down a bit in terms of me as Dan. I want my work to just be out there helping people. I don't want to have to be attached to that necessarily. I don't want it to be about me or about money or about anything like that. I just want it to be, someone needs help. I know they need help and I will offer. And I do quite frequently. My wife watches a lot of YouTubers. I don't watch very many other YouTubers, not like vloggy type of YouTubers, but she watches vloggy type of YouTubers, and they'll be talking in their vlogs about being depressed or being anxious or whatever it happens to be. And so I send them messages saying that I'm happy to offer help. And obviously if they don't take it up, that's their choice. but my perspective is that my side of it is that I've offered. It's up to people whether they want that help or not. I'm comfortable with walking away if someone doesn't want the help, and knowing that that was their decision and not my decision, and that I did what I could to try and help, and I still would if they suddenly changed their mind. Yeah, I pretty much do try and focus on just the little bits. I set goals and things, for example, that are just what am I going to do between now and then, now and next week or now and next month, and the changes I can make, rather than comparing myself to big things or, as you say, newsreels. But at the same time, obviously, these things are always in the background, especially nowadays with different things going on in the world. It doesn't particularly affect me directly, like emotionally or anything like that. Obviously, all these things that go on in the world affect all of us, like with businesses struggling because of exchange rates and stuff like that, and people making decisions out of arrogance. But yeah, so my thing is I attempt to I'm generally a very positive outlook type of person, and I attempt to focus on just what I can do, and I let go anything that I can't achieve. But at the same time, I'm very open about, if I try something, what frustrates me. So I'm very open about the fact that it frustrates me when you try and offer kindness and you try and offer help to people, or if I offer help to people frequently, if the person needs help and then they decide they either want it or don't want it, it's where you've got an intermediate person. So as I say, like where you've got a charity or someone you have to deal with to try and get the help to the people who need it, and the people would probably love the help, but you've got this block, you've got this kind of, you have to decide, do you want to battle someone or, negotiate, or whatever term you want to use? Do you want to have to deal with them to get to that person to help them? Do you want to get to that? You want to get to help the people the little people, the people on the ground, but you frequently have someone who perhaps has a financial vested interest, like, maybe someone manages to get a pharmaceutical company that supplies drugs for a problem, and they get a cut in how many of that specific brand of drugs or whatever gets prescribed by them. So you then can't compete with that because they've got a financial interest in not dealing with you and not helping their patients through you instead. But again, that's why I try and do things like YouTube, because then I can help people and raise awareness here, where literally anyone can. I used to charge in the old days. So most of my working career, I've either worked for local authorities or places like that, and I've done private therapy on the side, which I've charged for. But because I'm charging for it, my thing has always been that the kind thing to do as a human being is offer some of your time for free. So 90% of my work I would be charging for. I'd be charging clients who want to see me one-to-one. I'd be charging, obviously, when I've been working in jobs, I'm being paid for doing the job. But I would then always say, I want to offer this amount of my time for free every week or every month to charities or to whoever, because I'm making a living doing this elsewhere. The same with training. I've always charged for training courses, but then I would always have some training where it's like, there are some people who just would love to learn stuff but can't afford it. So I'd have some spaces on my training courses that are free. So, for example, I taught a hypnotherapy diploma. One of the people on the diploma, the last one I taught, came from France, and I paid for him to come over to the UK. I paid for him to stay in a hotel for the 18 days, 20 days, because you have a night before and you have a night afterwards, so that he could attend the training for free. So I try to make sure there's something, there's paid stuff, but there's also some just a small slither of, because of all the paid stuff, I can do this bit for free for you. And I've always charged a reasonable amount. I've never charged like the lowest rate for my area or anything. So, for example, with hypnotherapy, I charge. Now I don't see clients because I don't need to, and so I choose not to. And I've no longer have a venue to see them from, and it's just too much hassle trying to organise another venue because the venue I was in closed. But I would charge. I know kindness and free is looked at suspiciously, which is really annoying because it should be the default setting. And free is often abused. People contact me all the time saying, "Oh, I'd love your book, but you've got to buy it. Can you give it to me for free?" And I never have. If I give a book to someone for free, it's because I've decided that, not because they've asked for it. But yeah, I always get that. And like with my stories, nearly all my bedtime stories are available on MP3 to buy from my website, and to buy from iTunes, and to buy from Amazon MP3 and all these other places, and to listen to on Spotify and whatever. But people will end up emailing me saying, "I don't want to listen to your bedtime story on YouTube because the screen's too bright." I normally just say, "Can't you turn your phone upside down so the screen's upside down?" But people will say, "Oh, I want to listen to your bedtime story, but the MP3 version seems to be paid. How do I get it for free?" And I point out that I put in hours and hours to make these things, and to have to host a website and all these other things. And so if you want to buy it, you pay for it. If you want it free, it's free on YouTube. Feel free to listen to it for free. I know that most of my things are very, very cheap. On the annoying thing with, so that's, my book is 99 cents or whatever at the moment. It's going to go back up again in price to $3.99 in a few days' time, but it's reduced because there's a promotion starting, and I couldn't reduce it showing the original price. But yeah, a lot of stuff like my MP3s, I can't control what Amazon or iTunes charge for them. All you can do is submit it to them, and then they charge their rate that they charge everything for. So I think big companies can dictate to Amazon what things get charged for, and can dictate to iTunes and stuff. But little people like me can't dictate to the big companies. So all you can do is submit it, and then they decide the cost of it. So I don't know what cost any of my stories are in these places, because I don't look and I don't care. I'm just trying to make sure it's out there, and if people want it, they can have it. But yeah, my books and my e-courses and things like that, I try to keep them reasonably priced. I don't want to overprice things, but at the same time, I don't want to underprice them, because I'm aware that people can't necessarily afford things. And like with hypnosis, when I started out learning hypnosis as a teenager, to buy VHS videos, as it was back then, would cost nearly £100 just for a VHS video that's an hour long of teaching you hypnosis, something about hypnosis. And there was no way I could afford that kind of money back then. So my thing had always been, if I ever do this, I want to make sure that people of all price brackets can get hold of it, not just only the wealthy kind of thing. So I would do stuff on YouTube so that people can get access for free. And obviously I get paid when people click on ads and stuff, or when ads are shown for a certain length of time and stuff like that. Get paid a very, very low amount, but get paid. And if people want to buy something, then obviously I have things at affordable prices, so that hopefully people think, yeah, that's enough to make me aware that it's a reasonable product. But it does annoy me that a friend said to me years ago, they saw that I offered an hour-long thing. Everything's on my danjoneshypnosis.com website. There's all the links, or everything is on there. Years ago, I offered an hour-long rapid induction training course download for, I think, a tenner or something, for £10. And this guy said to me, I was going to buy it because it looked really, really good, but I thought, oh, it's only a tenner. It's got to be a rip-off in some way. And so he was suspicious and didn't buy it, because until he met me, he didn't buy it because he thought that it would be a rip-off because it was only £10. Yet my thing was, well, it's online, and £10 seemed like a reasonable amount for an hour-long thing. Didn't seem too expensive. But yeah, so it is odd that the world has flipped around, and anyone who offers something for free, somehow it's suspicious. I don't think marketing has helped. The fact that obviously one marketing ploy is give something away for free to nab someone's email address or whatever, means that as soon as you say you offer something free, people instantly think, oh, it's only because you're going to want to get their email address, which isn't necessarily the case. You're just offering it free because you're offering it free. So I think on my website, I have a PTSD for Soldiers MP3 for free, and I have a few others, depression ones, for free. But most of my stuff, you have to pay something for, but I try not to make it too expensive. So anyway, I keep saying I'm going to stop, and then I keep reading a comment and talking. And so it's now 1 hour, 41 minutes. So yes, so good night to everyone whose nighttime it is, and good morning to everyone whose morning it is. Feel free to listen to one of my bedtime stories when you get to your nighttime. Yeah, I will see you on other videos. If I get time, I'll probably do another live one a bit closer to Christmas. Thank you. And but if I don't, I wanted to make sure I definitely had at least a video here saying, this is how my last year's gone. For anyone who's interested, people might not care, but for anyone interested, I just wanted to be able to say, you know, here's how the last year has gone. Here's what I've done. Because the number of people, as I think I mentioned, the number of people who will comment on my videos and say something like, you should write a book. Yes. Number of people that will comment things like, you should write a book, and don't know that I've written books and things like that, who don't click on my channel button to see my channel, to see what I've done, and then click to my website and read my website and stuff. So it's just helpful occasionally to do like a video like this, so I can say I do actually do other stuff than just make bedtime stories, if you're interested in checking any of it out. So anyway, as Donald says, I'm going to stop, because or else I'll probably carry on and probably do a marathon talk, which wouldn't benefit anyone other than sending people to sleep. So thank you for everyone who has popped on here, and obviously everyone who watches this far, those crazy people that see I was live and then decide to watch 1 hour, 44 minutes of me rambling. Thank you to them as well. So if anyone does have anything to say, feel free to comment below. So I will see you all later. See you later.